All right, hello guys. Here, Basement Sports Talk. I got a special guest today, esports today. I'm here with Paul. Can't say your last name for the hell of me. Boccaccio.
Bukikyo, I appreciate the attempt.
But Paul plays Dota, a bunch of other things like that. Kind of really dropped out of college to kind of pursue esports, if I might say. Yeah. He's a creator for GameLeap.com. And I've really, obviously there's nothing else to do right now. So I wanted to sit down with him and just talk about what kind of goes in esports. He recently just got back from Bulgaria.
That's right.
Which we'll get into as well. But Paul, first question just off the bat, what made you get into esports or Dota?
Dota? Well, my hometown friends just told me to, I just found them playing one day and I joined in. So was it anything in particular? No, I just love video games. Got addicted and then stayed addicted.
And when playing those video games, like what type of feelings did you get from playing? Like, was it relief or?
I mean, I think I always disliked school. So like playing video games was just my way to compete and feel like I was growing in something. It's just an escape, really. I do feel like that it is for most people too.
And, obviously this might have changed from the beginning till now, but how many hours per day do you kind of spend playing different types of esports and things like that?
Yeah, as I was telling you earlier, I don't play too much anymore. I'm focused more on the content side of things now. But when I was trying to go pro, I was always in school, so I can never go like 10, 12 hours. Mm-hmm. But I was going at least six to 8. I think you even know when we were dorming together, if you came in my room, I was always playing.
Background knowledge for the people that don't know is me and Paul, where we met was freshman year at Marist College. We were suite mates together. That's right. And there was definitely some nights where I annoyed Paul while he was playing on his computer for sure. But kind of going into the amount of time you spent on it, what was your reaction from your parents at first? Were they ever like, do you spend too much time in esports, or how did you manage that?
Of course. Oh, of course. I ruined basically every relationship in my life. And I'm willing to admit that at this point. I think my friends genuinely disliked me. My parents definitely, they loved me, of course, but they loved me, No, things are not that good. Things are not that good. And that's why I don't know if I would recommend people doing what I did. My whole life was esports. That's all I cared about. It really was. So.
And what would you kind of recommend to someone who might be in your shoes younger, that wants to get into esports?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Because I honestly do feel like a lot of the time video games it's a very dangerous thing to do because there's almost no transferable skills to the real world. So if it doesn't work out, you're in a bad spot. I'm just being real, right? That's me being real. If you want to go into esports, you better all in and you better have a good mentality. Like you have to all in because esports is a small scene right now. It is very small. There's little money. All in or don't do it. That's the best advice I can give.
And, going back to, I guess you really were into Dota and stuff like that. What was the moment when you exactly decided to go all in, like you just said?
I was never allowed by my parents to actually all in to the point where I would have wanted to, but I think junior or senior year in high school, I told myself like, I'm making it in some way or another. I was set on it, and it really did kill my grade. Oh. It really did kill my grades. Yeah, I'm gonna have to throw out the phone. Sorry about
that. You're good. You're an important guy.
Of course, the home phone, right? No, but it really was like when I was in senior year of high school, I told myself like, hey, I'm either going to go pro or somehow make it in esports. And I kept going with college to appease people. I'm sure if anyone else is in esports and is listening, like you get that. It's no parent understands. They don't get it, right? I wouldn't expect them to. It's, but that's just how it was. I think it was senior year of high school. I just told myself I'm doing it.
And going off, even in high school, of course, and then going into college, how did you balance the time between doing schoolwork and then spending that much time into what you were doing?
I don't think I really did balance it, Sean, because if I'm being real, if I did balance it, I don't think I would have gotten to the point that I did. I don't think I really balanced. I think I do believe I'm fortunately a smart person, which might sound egotistical to anyone listening, but it helped me kind of cruise through college. I really did just cruise through. I didn't study too much. I kind of just winged it. Things went okay, like 85s around there, right? Like that's like okay, at least for my parents' standards. So yeah, I didn't really balance it. I just winged it and hope for the best. That really was what it was.
So besides kind of the time balancing aspect of it, what were some other challenges in getting into esports and becoming recognizable, for example?
Yeah, well, the thing was, I didn't really start making anything out of myself or anything out of it up until the last year and a half. Because the tier 2 scene in any esports right now is unbelievably unprofitable. If you compare it to something like real sports, let's say it's like college. Well, I guess some college sports, you don't make anything either, right?
Yeah, no.
Right.
That was a bad example.
Yeah, I'm like, no. But they're starting to change that, right? They're starting
likeness and images, they can start to make money off of it. I think maybe in the next season. But it's because the G League is giving high school players a lot of money now.
Wow. Okay.
The league under NBA. And they're kind of stealing players, but that's a different topic.
Absolutely. But I do think it relates, because if you're going to make it within one of these scenes, you have to commit your life to it, and it's going to hurt other aspects. So I think these kids should, in my perspective, from what I've gone through, should be able to get something out of it, because it consumes your life. It really, really does. So I made nothing. Tier 2, I was top like 500 for a while, like 2 years, made zero, maybe like $10, maybe like $50 from coaching. Nothing, literally nothing. And then a year and a half ago, I started making content and eventually committed to creating Game Leap's YouTube channel, got mentored, things shaped up, and honestly, I got lucky. Like I didn't think I was going to go down this route. I wanted to play, but things just kind of worked out, I guess. I don't know. I still don't know what's happening.
And what would you say is one of the major differences between, playing and let's say you wanted to go pro in Dota and kind of like the content creation? What's the difference?
I think content creation is a lot more like a real job. I think you need discipline. I think it's not much of an addiction. It's not one of those things where you just wake up, you can turn off your brain and just start cranking out games. Like playing video games and going pro, honestly, it scares me because a lot of people use it as an excuse to do nothing, right? Creating content, it's work, right? It's real work. So I think that's the big difference. There's a huge difference.
And you touched on coaching, that other answer. I don't know exactly how many people you've coached and things of that nature, but what goes into, or you could tell me how many, but what goes into coaching a player and making him better, and how, do you enjoy that?
I do enjoy it. I think the hard part for me in the beginning was, the reason why I didn't enjoy it in the beginning was I would get so upset with myself if I couldn't help them. But the reality in life is you can't help everyone. It's just, some people just kind of can't be helped. That's just being, some people just, man. But I think I've coached like 40 or 50 people now.
Wow. So that's a decent amount.
Yeah, absolutely. And it started to shape up at first. Like, it was so funny. When I was 4K MMR, which I know no one probably knows what that means. Middle of the pack. I coached people for $0. Just did it for fun.
Oh, okay.
Then like $5, then like $8, and like slowly work your way up.
That's
until
good, though.
Yeah, that's what it's about. That's what it's about.
Okay, I want to kind of go back to the Bulgaria thing.
Okay.
And you with Game Leap. Tell me what exactly you do with Game Leap, and why. You said they're kind of their headquarters in Bulgaria, but what exactly do you go over there and do?
Yeah, so the purpose of that trip was really just to develop as a person and to like really, really all in content, because I still have this terrible feeling within myself that I'm like, I need to go pro, right? I spent like 5 years on it. It's like a college basketball player, like getting an offer to, or like feeling like they can make it to the NBA and then just saying, oh, I'm just going to do content. They're going to have that feeling inside of them like, hey, man, maybe I could have done it. So really the purpose of the trip was to get past that feeling, really all in. So that's what it was. That's what it was. And I learned so much from these people, the creators of Game Leap, incredible people. Like, guys, if you're trying to get into esports content or sports content, you really got to find like people who have been in the scene for a while or some mentors that can get you up, because there's not a lot of people that like are successful in esports. So if you can like work for free or something like that, just do it. That you got to get your foot in the door for these things, I think.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And really that can be applied to anything you do. Like if you find someone successful in whatever field you're doing, work for free for a couple months and see where it leads you. You're going to gain so much knowledge, which I bet you did.
Absolutely. Oh, it's incredible.
And, go in Bulgaria, I think you overstayed your welcome a little bit because of the coronavirus. Yeah. Can you talk to me about that and that whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to stay there for like a month, maybe a month and a half. I was like, it would be a good experience. Month, not a big deal, right? Then Corona kicks in, like, I think 2 weeks, maybe a month in, around there. And I just decided to stay. New York was terrible.
Not so good, Paul.
No, definitely not, Sean. You're definitely not. So I was like, all right, I'll stay. And it was just a great trip. I just learned a routine. Like, that's what I learned how to do there, which is a really cool experience and hard, I think, for someone within an esports or a sports scene to just like not do something that you're passionate about. That's a weird way to put it.
Yeah, I don't know. Explain that to me.
Yeah, because I think when you were playing sports all day or if you're playing games all day, it's very easy. It's easy. So for 3 months, I just kind of stopped. And it was a weird feeling, but I think that's something a lot of esports players who might be listening, or even sports players might struggle with in the future, which is doing something else that frankly isn't as easy as playing a game, which, I'm all for playing games, but it is playing a game. So yeah, it was a lot of just developing discipline for a long time. That's really what it was.
And I don't know if Bulgaria, that was one of the countries that kind of what was it?
They dodged Corona, yeah.
Right? They didn't think it was real or something like that, right?
Oh, that? Oh, no. No, I think they thought it was real.
Oh, okay. They just dodged it?
And there's like no one wanted to travel in Bulgaria. There's nothing to do in Bulgaria. It was winter, it's snowy, there's nothing.
The only reason I know that is because, I'm a huge soccer guy. You probably remember that.
Right.
And, all these other first division leagues shut down because of the coronavirus, which obviously was the right decision. But in Bulgaria was like one of the only countries that just kept
really?
Yeah, it was like that kept their soccer division going. I didn't know if you knew about that.
I didn't. Oh, that's funny if that's true. I did not know. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, no one really wants to go to Bulgaria in the winter. So
that's true. It's true. I mean, I don't think it's an attraction for tourists.
No, it's not. It's not.
Now, in Bulgaria, like what was like a daily routine for you? Like, walk me through a day.
Okay. As a content creator, yeah, I mean, wake up, eat breakfast. If I could, work out. Like during Corona, I couldn't really go to the gyms. They shut down, but I still would try to go to like street gyms. It was a lot more loose than in the United States. Like you still could kind of go to street gyms, like go to mountain gym. You could make it work. So usually I would try to do that. The people at Game Leap, funny, they're a gaming company, but they all love to work out. Really?
That is funny because you don't really see esports guys as these people that want to work out.
Definitely not. But they're like hardcore. They take like caffeine beforehand, like they're called scoops, and it's hilarious. But no, I would work out, get home, and then just basically create content or coach for the rest of the day. That was or play video games. I mean, I still but
and what was the flight back? Because you just got back when?
2 days ago.
Wow. Okay. So what was the flight back then? Like, tell me about like the process of getting back.
It was actually really smooth. It felt like no one cares anymore about Corona. Like I'm serious. Like, dude, no one cared.
Everyone's just fed up about it. They just want to get outside. And
honestly, yeah, like people are still wearing masks, but why did it seem like no one cared? A lot of people had like their masks half off.
Mm-hmm.
I sat next to some guy on the plane, which might sound terrible. I feel like I'm gonna get like speared now for saying that, but
I thought they had to separate everyone.
no, I thought so too.
You're like, excuse me, sir.
Yeah, no, I was so confused. But what else happened? I like immediately. They barely checked us for corona. Like I had to sign some sheet. I just checked no for symptoms, and they let me go. I'm like, okay, that was
That's
easy.
it?
Yeah, for customs, I walked up. They're like, "Are you sick?" I'm like, "No." They let me go. I'm like, okay, that was it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was the easiest flight I've ever had. I'm
Wow,
serious.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I-
At least that's kind of good to hear. But I'm hoping we all get back, regular life soon, because I'm being in this basement starting to get to me.
right. I could imagine.
Transitioning to sort of like esports and I don't know how to say this, how people feel about it. People say esports isn't a sport and things like that. Like, what is your opinion on that? What would you say to people that say that?
Yeah, I mean, I think usually the people who say that are the people who are just very invested in this traditional idea of like smashing two dudes into each other.
Mm-hmm.
As like manly, like sports have to be manly. I mean, I even pulled up the definition of a sport. It says an activity involving physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or others for entertainment. So are you putting in physical exertion and skill in esports? Absolutely. So for other people's entertainment, also absolutely. Wait, where did the Zoom call go? There it is.
Don't lose me now.
Yeah, but I don't feel like anyone who understands what people put into esports would even come close to arguing that, because you're gonna have to put in the same amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
It's really draining. It's an incredible amount of effort. It's the same thing as sports. It's really just people doing what they love and going really hard. I don't even know if you need to call it a sport. Like I wouldn't care if esports was called like e-games, or it's still just everyone is trying so hard. Like people who don't know about esports, it is unbelievably competitive, just like sports.
Yeah,
extremely
absolutely.
competitive. And that's why I said you have to commit. If you want to go pro, 10, 12 hours a day at minimum, similar to sports, right? No matter what you're doing, studying, reviewing tapes, playing, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. If anyone actually watched someone training for esports, they would be, in my opinion, more than willing to admit that this is a sport or something of the likes of a traditional sport.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And it's actually funny you brought up the definition of the sport, because I literally went over the definition of sport in one of my sports comm classes. And, like we talked about what classifies a sport. And really, the broad term of it is that a sport is what is anything that brings people together. Chess is considered a sport too.
Right.
Exactly. So, like, why wouldn't esports be considered a sport? I totally agree with you on what you're saying. It brings tons of people together. There's more people that watch the League of Legends final than the Super Bowl when it's broadcasted.
I think that's true.
Yeah, because I spent, and the whole reason why I bring up the esports thing and people say is because I've been in sports communication classes where there's half the class is saying esports isn't real sports. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like watching you and knowing about esports, like I can say esports is definitely a sport.
Absolutely.
And like you say, the amount of time you guys put in is just as much. It might not be dribbling a basketball or doing that stuff, but it's just the same amount of time as a person who's trying to make it into the NBA is. So that's where I think people are a little misguided and they like the traditional sports, but you see the numbers that esports tournaments bring in too, and the money that's the prize money, at least, that's in it.
Oh yeah.
And it's huge. And it's hard to deny it, especially now in 2020, that esports isn't considered a sport.
Yeah, I definitely think it's nostalgia. Making people fear video games, or just the thought of this fat, greasy guy who just sits on his computer.
Most esports guys are skinny, though, I feel like.
I think so. Yes. Yeah, probably because they don't eat, but but I do think it's like nostalgia. Just I don't think they're being logical.
I want to throw this at you while we're still on this: is what characteristics about esports makes it like other sports?
Yeah, I mean, it's just got to be the competitiveness and the level of thinking. Like, it's similar to sports. You constantly have to be 2-3 steps ahead of your opponent. And it's the same thing for esports. You always need to be updating your information, checking matchups. Hey, what is the team against us going to pick? What plays do they run? like these type of things. It's so parallel. I mean, you could just compare. I could compare Dota to football so easily. So let's say in football they're running, I don't know, but what's the most basic term anyone can understand? A running play down the middle.
Fullback dive.
Sure. Let's say we're running a fullback dive. In Dota, you could assume, okay, at the 15-minute mark, they're going to run a smoke to Roche because they have TA. Now, that makes no sense to basically anyone.
That you're speaking another language.
Yeah, right? But the thing is, it's like, if I don't know football, I don't understand what a fullback dive is. But if you don't understand esports, you don't know what a smoking to Roche means.
Absolutely.
Because you have to study the game and understand what teams do and really constantly be updating your information, which I think is the hardest part about sports, not necessarily the mechanical aspect. So, yeah, I just think it's such a mind game that, honestly, I love, because I love sports too. We've played tons of sports at Marist. We played
absolutely. Spike ball was our favorite, I think.
Oh, that's a classic.
It is.
And it's they're fantastic, and they're very similar.
So kind of, I want to go into, trying to think what I want to go into exactly. Oh, okay. Yes. So obviously you switched to the content game, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's the plans going forward there? And you're like, you know, either whether it's a 6 month, year, 5-year plan going forward with Game Leap and creating more content.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for most people who know anything about esports, they've heard that esports is growing, right? This is I would almost say it's common knowledge at this point that esports is potentially the next big thing. So Game Leap is currently doing very well as a company. It's growing every year, and we don't see any signs of it stopping. So I've already become quite successful just within Game Leap. I don't see that going anywhere. Something I'm working on now is my own personal YouTube channel to grow my own brand to some extent. But I don't think this is going anywhere. I don't think so at all.
Now, going back, how did you first get into Game Leap? Did you find out about it? Did a friend tell you about it?
Yeah, it was actually just a friend on. So there's like a Facebook feed on Dota. It's like its own feed, right? And some guys just said, looking for Game Leap creators. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'll just try it out.
It was that easy?
Yes, it's that random, which is why I'm just like, oh, I don't even know how this happened. It was so random, so lucky. It really,
no,
I mean, go
keep going. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, for sure. But I've coached and created content before this, like before I joined Game Leap. So it was a bit natural, I would say. But yeah, it was really that random. It really, really was.
Now, what kind of, trying to say how to word this, is what's the demand from you for Game Leap? Like what goes into what they want from you?
So currently, I set myself the goal every single day to create 4 videos. And like four pretty large videos. So it's actually a lot because I'm currently running 2 YouTube channels, which is Game Leap Dota and Game Leap Fortnite. And then they also have websites. So how Game Leap runs is they have YouTube channels, which is primarily, I mean, it makes a bit of money, but it's primarily to market their website. And then they have subscription-based services that are very similar to Netflix. You pay $8-10 a month and you get exclusive content, right? That you can't get anywhere else. And so I also create a video for the Dota website, Fortnite website. And that's my duties for Game Leap right now. Yeah.
And do you see yourself wanting to expand in more aspects of content creation or other games, for example?
Yeah, I think, well, it's actually something I considered. I considered making Valorant content recently. I didn't want to spread myself too thin, so I sort of stopped doing it. But it's definitely an option. Absolutely. If there's another breakout game, like if there's a Fortnite 2.0, whatever the next Fortnite is, absolutely, I would consider getting into it. And I think that is, yeah, it's like, no, I was going to say it's as if they made a new traditional sport, like a new physical sport. So many people would get into it, but that's a bad analogy because that would never happen. But.
And when you create content for, I don't know, let's just say Dota, for example, what do you look to do? Like, do you look to put humor into it? You know, I don't know, strategies to learn? Like, what do you think you're trying to implement?
Yeah. So the purpose of Game Leap is to help people get to the next level, get to a professional level, right? Push towards that. So my content is very much focused around giving people constructive criticism, I'm very often reviewing people's games or even pros games, advice, feedback, tips, tricks. And on the back end of that, to make it interesting and to drive views, I'm very often super high energy, try to be pretty humorous to some extent. And that's actually something I've had to develop within myself. So yeah, that is kind of the game of YouTube and content creation. You have to learn how to become a salesman, just with your words, and a commentator, which I'm sure you understand. If you're in sports communication, you have to learn how to, keep emotions high and keep people interested, engaged to drive attention.
Yeah. And what do you think is like one of the best things or the biggest things you've learned since kind of going in this route in content creation?
Biggest thing I've learned. Oh boy, I've learned so much, but
take your time.
Yeah, that's a hard question. I've learned so much, honestly.
Maybe top 3 things you've learned, whether like life skills or content skills.
I think the main thing I've learned is that is definitely one of the big things, and something I think can motivate other people is if you put your head down in something, no matter what it is right now in this current world, because of the internet, you can make something out of it. You can make a career. Like, I'm happy to say I could sustain myself by myself just with what I'm doing, which is the best feeling in the world. Like, it is so incredible, and I'm so happy with that. That's the main thing that I've learned. Like, in life, you can do what you want if you put the time in, but that's a lot of time. But you can, which is the first thing. The second thing is that gamers are generally pathetic. Yes. Now, that might be hard to hear if you're a gamer listening, but oh boy, like, they get a bad rep for a good reason. They're toxic, lazy, no social skills, terrible. So I've had to develop that myself. I had very bad discipline, mediocre, just terrible. And then the third thing is, oh boy.
I mean, I bet you learned something just from being in another country, a foreign country. I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but I'm saying
that's a great point.
I would say.
I've learned, that was a lot of perspective. If anyone goes to Bulgaria, there's a lot of buildings that were built during the Soviet era of Bulgaria, and they're just concrete slabs, just massive rectangles, extremely ugly, dirty, disgusting, and people live there, and there's thousands of them. Also, the average income is 1,200 lev, which is like 700 USD. That's their currency. It's like 700 USD a month.
For like a person?
Yes. Think about that.
That's nothing.
It's nothing. They're so poor.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off, but what made Game Leap pick Bulgaria, or is that just where they?
No, they grew up there. Yeah, they grew up there.
Wow.
Yeah. They came from the slums. Like, the creators of they came from like rock bottom, basically.
So they just had an idea of making contents for different games and just ran with it then.
Funny enough, the owner, the CEO, was actually rank 1 in WoW at some point, World of Warcraft. So he actually made quite a bit of money from coaching when esports was very, very new. Mm-hmm. So he became a programmer, and then just had an idea, ran with it.
Wow.
Just worked out. Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
Pretty weird story.
That is.
Yeah.
And so what, I'm kind of backtracking again, but you say you get this try out Game Leap on a Facebook feed, right? You click it and you talk to someone. What was, after did you talk to the owner right away? Is that how it worked?
No. And the guy who made the post, you only see posts for people who you're friends with. So I'd teamed with the guy before. So if I hadn't been at the top and teamed with this guy and made connections, it would never have happened.
Gotcha.
So like, if anyone's trying to get into content, you got to make connections. You have to. And so it was just, I talked to some of their reps. What do you call them? I don't know. Content managers, something like that.
Something like that. That would work.
One of the employees. And he got me in. I didn't know the CEO for a while. But now I'm like best friends with him. Super cool guy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You kind of talked about the networking right there. How, this is awesome because it can apply to anything in all sports. Tell me how crucial it is just to network in your field, in your industry.
It's huge. Guys, if you're trying to get into, if you're a player, like, even if you're in content, I mean, it matters. like any other profession, but I think esports players and players in general don't understand how important connections are. Like, they dismiss it. They're like, oh, my mechanical skill is going to drive everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. You need to become friends with other top tier players. You need to make friends with managers on pro teams, players from pro teams, because you need that chance, right? I was ranked 50 and never got the chance. I didn't know this at the time, right? I didn't really make a lot of friends. I didn't have many connections. I was at the same mechanical skill as a lot of pros, but I didn't know anyone. I didn't. So I never got a chance. And that's okay. But really, that is such a big thing. You have to make connections. It's such a big deal. I can't stress that enough.
Now, do you believe, you said you're 50th in US for Dota, right? At some point.
I was, yeah.
Do you believe if you had those connections or the connections you have now that you probably would have been on a professional team?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, a big thing is, I think to get to high ranks in general, you have to have a pretty big ego. So I do have an ego about myself. Like, I do believe, hey, I could have done it, right? That's the reason why I think I could get there in the first place. I genuinely believe, like, I could beat anyone. So yeah, I think I could have, but that could just be my ego talking, right? I don't know. But I really do. No, but it is like that. And that's like a good piece of advice. If you're trying to go pro in anything, you need to like actually believe you are genuinely better than everyone else. And not in that cocky way. You don't have to go around just telling it to everyone, but like that feeling where you're like, I can do exactly what they're doing, if not better, like what other pros are doing. And it's huge. It's huge to have that confidence.
Now, this is kind of a question for myself, but so I know you post videos and stuff like that. Now, what's the difference between yourself and I'm just saying Ninja, right? Who, streams games and things like that. What's the difference?
Yeah, Ninja's a lot more entertainment. He doesn't really teach people how to play. I mean, he might indirectly, and he might give tips and like here and there, but I'm much more about, like, every single one of my videos has like a theme about what I'm teaching you. It's a lot more about learning the game at especially a high level. So it's a lot more, what I do is more educational. Yeah.
So would you say like you record you playing a game and doing a specific move or a strategy in some way and like talk the people or the consumers through it?
Yeah, that's one thing I do. So I'll go through a game that I've played, or I'll go through while I'm playing. I'll look at a pro match, talk about what they're doing, because these games have pretty good replay systems. Mm-hmm. I have this series that I do where I have viewers submit their clips and I can look at their clips, which is a really cool thing about esports.
Yeah, wow.
I can look at their clips, and then it's called Guess the Rank. It's one of our most popular series. And I look at their gameplay, and based upon their gameplay, I have to guess what like tier they're in, or like what rank they are.
Gotcha.
That's a really fun one. So it's like a lot of different ideas talking about the different characters, plays. It's a lot of fun for me, and I think that's why we're doing quite well. We actually just recently hit 200,000 subscribers.
200,000 subscribers.
Yes. Wow. And we're still going. We're at 200.
Like $10 a month.
Now. Oh, I'm sorry. No. You have that back. I wish. That would be incredible. Holy. So YouTube and the website is separate.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I got you. I understood.
Yes. That would be insane.
Subscribers on YouTube is still something to be proud of as well.
Absolutely. It drives a lot of sales for the website, and just the revenue from YouTube channel is it's pretty good. It's not great. A lot of Dota is a third world audience, so the ad revenue isn't too high. Maybe you know that about YouTube.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of educational content where a lot of streamers and your average content creators are generally more entertainment focused or gameplay focused.
Yeah, and 200,000 subscribers is not a small number. What do you think is the trick for you to connect with your audience or your fans?
To connect, I mean, I think being very personable is something I really do try to do in every single video. I really try to not create some sort of an ego, because I think that's a very easy thing to do. Like, I'm talking to people, and I'm even discussing with people who are quite a bit worse than me, just to make it frank. So I try to like teach people exactly what to do, be constructive. I keep high energy. I use relevant Dota memes. I mean, I played the game, so it's pretty easy for me to connect with them.
Because you've done it for so long.
Absolutely. I know what's like a common joke in the community, like saying SEA is the worst server. Like, that's like
I have no idea what that means, but I'm sure it's hilarious.
Yes. SEA is Southeast Asia, and apparently it's abysmal. I don't really know. I don't play in SEA, but apparently they're really toxic. So like, I get a bunch of comments in the videos. It's like, I can't apply the information you're telling me. because I'm in the SEA server and no one actually listens.
You're like tough luck.
So many people make excuses. Like, holy guys, if you're listening to this and you're trying to go pro in esports, stop making excuses. All right, you're the problem. You're the problem.
Trying to think what else I got. I mean, you touched on a lot of the questions I wanted to ask. But trying to. Oh, here's one that I was. What do you enjoy the most about what you do?
I don't have to go to college.
That's a plus.
No, I mean, I think it depends on who you are. Like that for me is like I did love certain things about college. I hated going to class. That was a big thing for me.
I know.
I'm sure a lot of people
out of bed 5 minutes before class and.
Yes, you're completely right.
Somehow got to class on time. I don't know how, but
we made it work. No, you're right though. You were completely right. That's a big thing. I love the fact that I can stay within esports. Yeah, that's a big thing. I can work from home. Well, that's why I can go to Bulgaria. I can work wherever I want, which is awesome. And I can just stay within esports. I love esports, and just being able to work and create a career within this has been such a blessing. It really has been. So
how much of the freedom, the freedom aspect of, working from home and kind of went into that decision as well?
Well,
are you still at your parents' house right now?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. Might move out in the next couple of years. Don't know. Not sure. But how much?
Like the freedom, like it seems to me, and especially when you decided saying, hey guys, I'm not going to go to Marist anymore. I'm going to go to community college and do what I love, essentially, because it is what you love.
Yeah.
I think it might have given, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it might have gave you more freedom than essentially what you had at Marist. And, you're scheduled to go to class and do this and do that.
Oh, absolutely. I knew for a fact for a long time, no matter what I do in life, I wanted to spend all my time on it. And it's really frustrating for someone who feels that within themselves to half and half everything. Because that's not how you become, I'm sure you know this, that's not how you make it in anything. You can't half-ass everything in life. It just doesn't work. And it made me frustrated in esports. So yeah, that was a big thing. I always wanted all in. Community college was the first step to convincing my parents that, hey, this is not for me. But yeah, I guess the last thing I'd say about that is I don't do anything else, right? For me as a person, the reason why this works is because I don't do anything else. And you might know this, Sean. I mean, I stay with obviously you in the first year of college, and I don't drink. I don't really like to party. I don't do drugs, which might seem lame to a lot of people. It would, and I understand that.
And I understand too, as you're in college, and I was there. We've all gotten peer pressured to do things. For sure. I'm sure we could talk about a couple stories.
Absolutely.
Of course. But
of course.
But no, I always, it's one thing. Honestly, watch. The many times I just came into your room and started watching you. It's like, I'm like, all right, this guy's pretty good at what he's doing. And honestly, it's more of a respect I have for you, because it's easy to just be that college kid that goes out and party. I see it all the time at Marist. Yeah. And same thing with me is I think we respected each other because you saw how much time I put into basketball
and your classes.
Yeah, sure. I mean, hopefully.
I mean, I looked through your notes. They were so clean and organized. And I'm pretty sure you were the only person in your room. No, if everyone else is watching this, I love you guys. You're like the only one who actually studied before a test.
That might have been true with our suite mates. It might have been true.
Oh, well, maybe Joe as well. Maybe Joe. Yeah, no, Joe. Definitely Joe. But hey, I didn't. Nick didn't. Maybe Ryan did.
Was on and off.
Ryan was on and off. Mike, no, not Mike.
Mike was great at making his room dirty and playing Fortnite at 2 a.m. and waking me up. That's what he was good at.
Oh, gotta love Mike.
Gotta love him. No, but I mean, it was just crazy times. But going back to that, it's just I feel like we both had a passion that we were trying to do, absolutely. And I'm happy for you that you found to take that step. Be like, hey, Marist isn't the place where I'm gonna be able to do the thing I love. Yeah. Let me go to community college and then honestly, I'm just assuming you finished community college. Did you, right?
Yeah, I finished.
Yeah, and
I
then,
didn't get any.
And then you kept doing what you love, which is I was just talking about this with a friend earlier, either yesterday, I think, and it's many people don't even know what they love to do. So the fact that like you and
It's
me
tough.
know what we love already at a young age, it's almost like an advantage.
It is a big blessing, and I frankly, if anyone's watching this, I would never blame anyone for not knowing what they want to do. In
Oh no,
fact,
not at all.
I think it's extremely logical. In fact, hey, in 5 years, I might be doing something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I realistically do think it is somewhat of an advantage if you can make something out of it. So yeah, I always notice that within you as well, and I do think it is pretty big to be able to commit to something in anything in life. If you can commit, that's when I think you have the potential to make it. I really do.
Awesome, dude. Last question from me
Okay.
is, in your broad experience with esports and content creation, what's like the favorite thing or the best memory you have?
Oh boy. You know, the funny thing is like I think usually people would have this in their lives, but I think for me, I really love the process. Like it's more about loving the process. I think if I was focused on like these one-off experiences, and I get your question, but I really do love the process. So I don't think I don't have days that are extremely exciting, but oh boy, maybe I think the day that I liked the most was when my parents were just like accepting what I was doing, which
Mm-hmm.
I think would make sense for a lot of kids who maybe are doing something unorthodox. Your parents aren't going to necessarily support it at first. So the day when I could say, hey, you know, like I'm making this much, I'm happy, I'm learning, I'm actually serious about this, and they were like, okay, you know, do your thing. That was probably the best day. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it was, and kind of like this, not trying to go psychological, but when we're younger kids, and from 17 to, you're probably 20 or 21, right? I'm
20,
21.
yeah. Mhm.
From 17 to 20, it's such a huge jump, and you've learned so much in that amount of time. And I'm sure, like when you're 17, and same thing with me. I'm a big sports guy, but I almost went to Marist for business. I don't know if you knew that.
No,
Because it's seen as the safe thing to do.
right.
And I'm sure you dealt with that as well. Uh,
Absolutely.
and I was very fortunate to have a dad who actually persuaded me the other way, because he knew
Wow.
how much I wanted to go. He knew how much I love sports. And he knew, he's like, Sean, you're not gonna like it if you go in business and have a sports communications minor. If anything, you should do the other way around. And that's, I ended up doing a sports comm major, and I think it was the best thing for me. Not only did I finish it in 3 years, I loved, every class I took and all the experiences I've had.
Yeah.
Whether that's going, I've been in the locker rooms of Madison Square Garden,
Oh, that's awesome.
Yankee Stadium, just because of different connections and things like that. I've covered high school championship games, and if I go into a business direction, I might not do any of that.
Yeah.
So I've been fortunate, and I can see why that's one of your best memories too, is how your parents are finally, not that they weren't accepting, but there's always that, like,
Unsure. Yes.
exactly.
Unsure. And I can't agree with you more. Just being able to love the process, as long as you know you're going to be financially stable in the future, and you don't have to have some lavish lifestyle, but if you love what you do, as cliche as that sounds,
Mhm.
I think it is key. As young as I am, hey, this coming from a 20-year-old who's worked for 1 year, but just from what I've done, it feels like it is the right road, and I'm just excited to be on it. I'm sure you are for your own path as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. And I think that's kind of it. It's almost probably been about 45 minutes now. We
Really?
couldn't stop talking.
Oh wow,
Yeah, it's been a long time, Paul. We just got rambling, and
that's
that's how we
incredible.
do it.
That's good.
But tell everyone real quick where they can follow you on Twitter and Game Leap and stuff like that.
Sure. So if you are interested in my content, which I have no clue because this is a sports contest, but if you're
sports, we just talked about it.
that's a good point, Sean. That's a good point. But you can follow me on Game Leap Dota, just Game Leap, game as in video game, and then Leap as in leapfrog, and then Dota or Game Leap Fortnite. I run both of those channels. Or on Twitter, I am Speed YouTube. There are 3 E's in Speed.
That's
So
right.
oh, you know that, Sean.
I do
Okay.
know that because you're super
Good.
fast. Also, I do a little bit of research, just a little bit before these.
Oh, I'm impressed. I'm impressed. Yeah, but on Twitter, it's Speed YouTube. Well, not YouTube, Speed YT on Twitter. So, yeah, it's been a pleasure, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Paul, thank you for joining us. Basement Sports Talk, one of the first or maybe the second interview we've done with someone, definitely a longer one for sure. It was definitely, I think a lot of people are going to like this, and everyone listening on Basement Sports Talk, like the 5 people that listen because it's very new. I hope you guys like it. Check out the website, basement-sports-talk.com, and check out our social media accounts, and we'll talk again soon. Special thanks to Paul.
Nah, that was a pleasure.